and welcome back to The Stage Door, presented by Canberra Arts, right here on Rogers TV from Corner Brook, Newfoundland, Labrador. It is such a treat this week to wear one of my other hats. I actually work with one of the local schools here in the community, Immaculate Heart of Mary School. And that's a school that has a deep connection to Canberra Arts, and particularly to the Graham Academy. Our namesake, Dr. Gary Graham, was the music teacher at Immaculate Heart of Mary School for a number of years, and his presence is certainly still felt there in many ways. One of the ways that I think it's felt is that every year this school does a musical in its gymnasium. And it is always such a treat to have, because you're featuring students all the way from junior kindergarten, 3-year-olds that are definitely having their first moment on the stage, all the way up to grade 12. And it's a real treat to be able to watch, whether it's choral music or dancing or full stories. And this year we are presenting the show Tarzan, which marks a bit of a milestone for the school, because not only is it a show that hasn't been done in Corner Brook before, it's also the first time that the school's done a full-length musical, which is really exciting, instead of the hour-long version. So we're really excited to have that, and I'm here with a couple folks from the school here now. So we'll introduce you one at a time and ask you a little question about yourself. And we'll start with you, Lily. So Lily, you're the youngest person here today.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about you. What made you get interested in doing theater?
Well, I just liked singing. I felt like it made me comfortable. And acting, I really like expressing myself in different ways, especially with different lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly what gets us in. And Katy, I'll ask you the same question. What made you interested in theater?
Well, I was always involved in the school musicals. I think Alice in Wonderland may have been my first school one. And then my parents put me in Graham Academy for a year. And we did Pirates Past Noon, I think, that year. Yeah. And then a couple of years later, I joined back. We did Willy Wonka at the school first. And then that made me want to join back. And then what did we do at Graham that year? Sound and Music. And yeah.
There you go. Then you got the bug. You were in pretty consistently from there. So that's great. And Mahir, what about you? I know you're fairly new to theater. So what made you interested in it?
Well, last year I was in the Aladdin musical, and that was a fun experience. And I wanted to do it again this year, but with a larger role.
Yeah.
More lines.
Absolutely. And you certainly achieved that, with this year. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I think that's one of the really important things about schools doing theater and doing music and the arts, is because it is the spot that you can discover that for free. You're there, you're in the school already, and it's an added bonus to be able to do those shows. So I think it's so important that you're able to have that moment of discovery as part of your day. It's not something that's fully rooted in after school at Immaculate Heart. It's rooted in the day, and we're very fortunate as teachers to be able to haul you all out of class to be able to get these shows going for kind of the last 2 weeks as we ramp things up. Irelyn, what about you? What drew you into theater?
I have been singing for almost my entire life, ever since I was a really young kid. And I never really considered doing theater until I started watching a couple shows. And then I was like, wow, I would really love to do that. And it was only after I got encouragement from people around me that I did my first actual musical, which was Aladdin. And that really helped me open up my mind to try a bit more to get into different musicals. And I'm really enjoying it so far. So.
Excellent. Yeah, one of our major pillars at Canberra Arts is education. And the reason for that is arts education is not just about, okay, you're going to be a professional actor now, you've done a show. That's great if that's something you want to pursue, if you want to be the professional dancer, musician, actor, professional technician. That's a wonderful thing. But it's also a wonderful thing that you get to learn how to cooperate with each other. You get to learn leadership. You get to learn responsibility. No one else can teach you those lines faster than you can, So it's a lot of added skills that go well beyond the stage. And I'm sure all of you guys kind of feel that. So we'll kind of work our way back up the line. And Irelyn, we'll start with you. What would you say are some of the surprising things that you've learned through doing theater?
Surprising things I've learned. One thing I would say is how much effort it actually takes to try and memorize all of the stuff. I've had a few big roles in my time doing theater, and you really have to put in the effort to try and memorize all the stuff, especially if you have both songs and lines.
Yeah.
It really just takes a lot of effort, and you really have to have the encouragement and determination to do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think the what is seen on stage, even though that's the big thing we're working towards, is the tip of the iceberg. Really, all the work is underneath that you didn't see. The set, the tech that's going on, but also those layers of memorization and knowing the blocking, knowing where you have to go, and then choreography for many people too in the show. Mahir, what about you? What's something that you've learned so far in your theater journey?
Well, I agree with Irelyn. Effort in memorizing lines is, it's you got to give in a right amount of effort for it.
Yeah.
And well, I enjoyed theater, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed acting.
Yeah, that's excellent to hear.
Yeah.
Katy, what about you? What's a surprising lesson or skill that you think you've learned around theater?
I really enjoy how much into it everyone gets, and it's just so great getting to work with everyone and having that finished product come together. But yeah, what Irelyn and Mahir said, there's so much work that goes into it that you can't see by watching it, and it's just
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that often comes out is that theater is all about community. And if you don't have the community, which Immaculate Heart is certainly very fortunate to have, then it's harder to do the show because you're not feeling that support and camaraderie, that everyone's working toward the same thing. Everyone wants this thing to go well and to be fun and to be enjoyed by the people who see it. So I think that's a great point. What about you, Lily? What's something that you've learned through theater?
Well, I used to get not very many lines as a little kid, and I used to look up and say, how do they memorize all those lines? And once that I got a line, this year, a lot of lines, I found it kind of hard, but kind of easy by memorizing the lines actually before and after me, so I know my cues. So I've learned that it's kind of, whoa, it's a lot.
Exactly, it's a team effort, right? Because then it's like a game of catch. It's always one way to describe it is that every line said, the ball's getting launched in the air, and then the person has to catch it or else it's rolling around on the floor, and that makes our job way harder because the audience is I don't know what's going on there. We lose them, right? Or it's there's so many analogies that we can use in theater, right? The other one is that you're kind of firing an arrow, and the whole act, that arrow got to keep moving. We don't want it to go, which when we have 200 people, like the school does, we got to really work to keep that momentum going because there's a couple numbers in the show that have pretty well the full school in it, which is amazing. One question I always like to ask is, we are part of a legacy. The arts in Corner Brook and the arts in many places this size the torch is carried on through the years by different folks. So really, I guess the question is, was there a moment or maybe a person that you really thought, whoa, I really want to do this? I know we spoke generally about how you got involved, but what was that magic moment? Because everyone has a moment that's okay, yeah. And then sometimes it grows into 10 more magic moments. And we end on our journey. Before we started recording, we were talking about that kind of butterfly effect of if this didn't happen, this wouldn't happen, and then I wouldn't have done this. And now I love doing that. So what would you say was that magic moment for you, Lily, that you were I want to do theater. I want to do musical theater.
Honestly, it was when I saw everyone enjoying theater so much, I was whoa, that's actually really cool. And I tried it, and next thing you know it, I was in The Little Mermaid playing one of the sisters. So that was really cool for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note that, the Immaculate Heart of Mary program has had so many great teachers leading those musicals through the years. Gary Graham was there for quite some time. But then following that, I know Jennifer Matthews came in, and following that, Diana Alteen came in, and Elizabeth McNeil, and Yvette Coleman, and myself this year. So it's been like some amazing people leading the musical theater charge there. So I think it certainly seems like a great spot. It's certainly a great working environment to be able to step into, and to know there's so much support around the musical from the school. Katy, what would you say was that kind of magic moment for you? You had a moment where you stepped away when you were in that younger group and did a show, and then we're like, okay, I'm good for a bit. But then you came back. So what was the magic moment?
It was when our school went to go watch the matinee of Frozen. I don't know exactly what it is, but I was like, I want to start doing this again. It was like such a good show. It was so fun to watch. And
that's awesome. That was certainly a special one. Frozen, it's just a beautiful theme of camaraderie and coming together at the end. That I think that's what theater has the power to move us, you know, and I think that's so important that we use that, you know, and there's themes that we'll talk about in Tarzan too. But theater is a powerful tool that you'll see a show and you'll think about that moment. You'll take it with you in the world of what that moment is. So I think that's a beautiful story too, because of course that was our Graham Academy production through Canberra Arts. So it's great to hear that can inspire people just by being able to see it. And Graham Academy this year is doing 4 school matinees, 2 of Winnie the Pooh, which actually features Lily, and 2 of Shrek. And those shows, students get to go for $8 to be able to see the show and have that experience that can really change their life. That could be the first show they see. It could be the only show they see. And I think that's a really powerful thing, and that's why it's so important to get out there and provide access to the community, which is what we at Canberra Arts really want to keep doing. And that's why we're supporting the school like this and making sure that school shows continue to happen as well. So Mahir, I guess your magical moment's a little more recent, but what or who was it that you were like, whoa, I want to do this?
Well, for me, it would be Clayton. So,
yeah?
Yeah. You know, the reason I like Clayton is because not only is like he a villain, it's like you really have to make the audience like know that you're Clayton. Like you got to put a lot of acting in him. Like you got to make them believe you're Clayton.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's one of those roles that you see and you're like, I'd love to try that, you know? And I think that's the fun thing about this too, is you really never know sometimes where you're going to end up. And we'll get to that, I think, talking to you, Irelyn. But it's such a gift when we go into something that we didn't expect to really be, and then we make discoveries, you know? And I think already in our scenes that we've worked on, there's been a lot of discoveries with you as Clayton to see, like, how is it different from the movie? There's a lot of differences, and I think that's the joy of a theater show that comes after the movie, is there's so much more to discover and more to find in those characters. But that's cool that you found that character, and you did. As soon as we announced it, you were like, I'm going to try it for Clayton. And it was like, if I try first, can I get it? And I was like, I don't know, it depends on how the try goes. But you did, so there you are. And Irelyn, what would you say was that magical moment for you to get into musical theater?
I think it was during Aladdin when we were trying out different songs while we were singing. Like we were practicing different songs, and I sang as Aladdin for one of the practices. And everybody in the music room was just so supportive of it. They were like, Irelyn, you have to try and be Aladdin. And I was like, I could try, I guess. And it's just that sense of community that you were talking about earlier, and just being encouraged by everyone around you. It really makes you feel really good about yourself and makes you feel like you can actually do it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful story. And I think that's so important for all of us. You know, this comes up when we're talking about the community musical with adults. It comes up when we're talking to young folks like you, that support is everything. And that comes from the community here in Corner Brook too. You know, you never know. You could be that one person who makes someone's path just by saying, hey, you got this. And that's like, I do got this. And magic happens after that, you know? And I think that's so important. And that is something that's pretty frequently seen at Immaculate Heart of Mary School. So before we go into talking about the show and who we are in the show and what we can offer through the show, the last question I'll ask is about your school, is about the school. And that is kind of, what would you say in a short way is special about it? Irelyn, we'll start down there with you. and
Special
send
about
it
the
back
school.
up. Yeah, what's special about Immaculate Heart of Mahir School?
I would have to say the teachers, because the teachers, especially those in like related to music, they're always they're always just so nice and caring. Like they genuinely care about the students that they're teaching, and they always give you the right amount of encouragement that makes you believe that you can accomplish many things.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. That's the goal. I think. Mahir, what about for you?
I agree. The teachers. Teachers are really supportive. They're nice, and I don't think I've ever had a bad teacher at Immaculate. It was nice.
It's awesome. This is great to hear. Katy.
Definitely the teachers as well. But our school also has a lot of opportunities and things, and the community of our school is really
Absolutely. And of course, Immaculate Heart goes to skills across the province. And Katy, you've had a win in skills that's going to take you to nationals this year. So congratulations for that. But, I think that's pretty unique in terms of looking at it, that people get to try these things, learn these things, and become proficient enough that you can go to the competition and then go to provincials and then, like yourself, end up in nationals with a skill that you really learned through the school and through being supported by teachers. It's certainly a pretty amazing thing, and congratulations for that opportunity. And Lily, what would you say is special about Immaculate Heart?
Also the teachers, and also how people can express their personalities, because there's so many things to do. Everyone is so kind, and there's nice things to do. We got all the things for everybody's different personalities. Some people are stronger at one thing and some people are stronger at the other, but we all work together as a team.
Yeah. No, it's been a special spot to come to, because of course Graham Academy and Canberra Arts and Immaculate Heart are neighbors. We bought the old convent behind the school, so we certainly had to get along, and we're very fortunate that Miss King and Sean and Jean on the board have been really spectacular neighbors, along with the faculty. But from the beginning, we were happy to help, with lending mics and lending equipment and making sure that the shows had everything. Because the better every show in this beautiful city is, the better it is for every other show too. Every show needs to be elevated, because that can inspire an audience. It can inspire actors like yourself. It can inspire someone who didn't even know. And at Immaculate, the tech is also largely ran by the students. Teachers always help and set it up, but there's always a student there help you out on that side and help you out backstage and helping facilitate all of those layers, which is so important. As you all know, that's a bit invisible to the audience. And the worst part is, a great technician should be invisible to the audience, because it's seamless, because everything's flowing so well. And to have a space where the students get to do so much of that work, it's pretty amazing. I think that's a pretty special thing. And Tarzan is no exception. There's a lot of moving parts here. We have Sean put a rope up that's going to act as our swinging vine, and we have the gym mats laid out. We've done a lot of testing and safety for that rope. And we're not doing it on Broadway. On Broadway, they have a full harness. You get harnessed on and zipped up about 30 feet into the air. We are not going 30 feet into the air due to safety, but we're able to go off the stage and into those mats, which I think is pretty magical, a little scary, and we got to try it a lot to make it work. But in addition to that, we have a leopard that has to do some combat with Tarzan. We have Clayton, who has to get in a couple fights. So all of that is layered, because all of these moments have to be mapped out. Of course, for Jane and Tarzan, there's moments like that that moment needs to be mapped out so everybody's comfortable in those moments. Anytime someone's arms around someone, we got to map that out to make sure every actor is like, this is cool, we're good. It's a pretty neat thing. So, we'll talk about, you're playing young Tarzan, Lily. Katy is playing Jane. Mahir is Clayton, as he's mentioned. And Irelyn is Kerchak, the patriarch of the gorillas. So there's all challenges to each of these roles. So as we talk about the show, what would you say is the challenge and what is the joy about each of those roles? So Irelyn, we'll start down there with you.
I'm gonna start off with the joys of it. I have a lot of fun playing this character. I love how serious and brooding he is, because in order to play Kerchak, you have to be like him. You have to act serious. You have to be this big presence on stage. You have to like use your voice very loudly because that's who he is. But that can also be a bit of a problem sometimes, considering how aggressive he needs to be sometimes. Sometimes I find myself worrying that I might not be able to live up to the expectation that I could be as, aggressive as he can. But I have a lot of faith in myself, I think. So I'm sure I'll be able to do it, hopefully.
That's great. Mahir, what about you? What would you say are the excitements and the challenges that come with playing Clayton?
Well, I love rehearsing too, and reading over my lines, skipping classes to go rehearse.
I feel that.
Yeah,
Deeper learning, we call that. There is learning to be had outside of a traditional classroom.
Yeah, and well, I do like scare that like in front of the audience I might mess up a line. That.
And the
Kinda
show
scares
must
me.
go
Yeah.
on, that's the lesson to learn there. But I think that's valid. Katie, what about you for Jane?
I'd say one of the challenges is probably the accent. She's from
Yeah.
England, so I think I've got it down now because I played Mary Poppins
Yeah,
last year.
you're very fortunate
Yeah.
to have Mary Poppins behind you, that you just have to tweak it a little bit.
And excitement, I'd probably say like her songs. I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Some
singing them.
great songs. I mean, the score's by Phil Collins, like the Phil Collins. And if you know the movie, there's some great songs in the movie, but the show actually has even more songs, and they're all good. Like, it's really rare for a musical to not have one that you're like, skip. I'm gonna be honest. Most shows, there's one that when you listen to it, you're like, nah. Even Wicked, that's a pretty popular one, but
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest. Something bad is happening in Oz. I don't listen to that one usually. But
Yes,
Tarzan
same.
has some great songs, and they're all really good. The ballads are good, and the other songs are really great. Jane's are kind of infused with this great energy. There's such great percussion, which is no surprise considering who composed it. But it's a great script as well. And what about you, young Tarzan? What are the joys and the challenges?
One of the joys is definitely having rehearsal. Like when we got called down for rehearsal, I jumped up and down. Like I was like, oh, yay! And the challenges basically, I'm kind of scared to do like the rope basically, but I'm really excited for it actually. It's like that feeling when I'm like scared, but like I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's important to say there's such a fierce level of support that this is all surrounded by, between Elaine and Sean. And the work that they do for the school in general is really astounding. I think, like you said, the teachers and a lot of that starts at the top, which is Elaine King, who creates that environment. And Sean volunteers most days, I think, to be at the school doing something. He's turning tables into stumps for us. He installed that rope, tested it himself first. He's on scaffolding in the gym, making sure everything works. And it's so amazing to see that level of support. And of course the school council and the parents are so supportive as well. And all of the teachers are rally around this show, and I think it's so spectacular. In my limited involvement in the past, I usually was hanging out in the hallway with Drew and Riley, running classroom to classroom to get everything organized and running.
Yeah.
And it's just always been so awesome, the energy that is at that school. And there's a lot to take away from Tarzan. So I'll just say, the opening line is, "Put your faith in what you most believe in." And I think that's a great start to kind of think about what this show is. Two worlds, one family. We're combining these worlds and bringing it together through the challenges. And I think that's a message we need to take out there. It's like, we have to listen to each other. There are going to be differences. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be people you will not agree with. But if we listen, we can learn. And I think that's the valuable takeaway right now from this show in a beautiful way. And it's going to be a beautiful performance. It happens at Immaculate Heart of Mary School in the gymnasium, which exciting news for those that know the gymnasium history of Immaculate is that gym is getting really refinished as we're working on this. So the tarp's up, things are happening, which works really well for setting up our jungle. I was like, honestly, tarp kind of works for our show really well. So tickets are only $15 for general tickets and just $10 for students. It's a full-length show. And you're supporting a great cause in supporting the school and supporting, 200 young people from ages 3 to 18 that are all taking the stage in this show. It's happening on May 22nd at 6 p.m. It's an early night because we have those 3-year-olds in it. We want to make sure everyone gets home and is able to get to bed. So it's going to be a real treat to share that show with the audience in Corner Brook. And tickets are available at the door. So show up, grab your ticket, see the show. You're guaranteed to have a great time. And thanks to all of these fantastic young folks for joining us this week at the stage door. On behalf of Canberra Arts, I'd like to take a moment to thank our gold level sponsor, Harbour Financial. Harbour Financial jumped on as a gold level sponsor. And I'll say to the community, if you want to support us at Canberra Arts, we are a not-for-profit. We are a charitable organization. We'd love to have your support behind us. Just reach out through our website and get in touch, and we'd love to build that list and be able to celebrate our local businesses that support the arts here in Corner Brook. And thanks to the folks at Immaculate Heart for coming on the show, a school that certainly supports the arts in a lot of ways. And we'll be back next week right here at the stage door.